Welcome to the Veil Between Lives, a sanctuary where lived experience meets the great mystery. Here we hold soulful conversations with those who have touched the unseen and what lies beyond the physical world. We're honored you're here stepping into this space with us. I'm Susan, joined by my co-host Em, and a special warm welcome today to our guest, Jenna Monaco Shaffer. Jenna is a writer, artist, Reiki master teacher, and founder of Santa Cruz Mountain Reiki. She bridges science and mysticism to create private, sacred spaces for self-healing. Whether you're beginning a new cycle or in the middle of one or closing a chapter, Jenna meets you at the threshold of transformation. Welcome to the show, Jenna. So nice to have you here.
Wonderful.
Yeah, looking forward to this conversation.
Me too.
Yes. Can't wait to see what unfolds here. And before we even begin getting into the story and some really juicy content, we were talking off air, and I think it'd be a wonderful idea for you to pull an anchor oracle card for us to start off the episode today.
I would be honored to. So I'm using the Moonchild Tarot deck. There is a original light version of it. This is the shadow version by Danielle Noel, an incredible artist, and one of the best booklets I've ever seen for tarot ever. So the message inside is bloom in light, bloom in shadow. And then the bottom says, seek the unseen. So I'll pull an anchor card from this deck. And I love Danielle Noel's artistry. To my knowledge, she does the art for the cards, but she also does all of the writing. So she's very prolific. I love her work. Okay.
Something jumped out at you there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. So we have 3. So I'll just share them. When they jump out like that, sometimes I'll discern if it's really just one card that wanted to come through or if all of them wanted to be there. So I'll go through quickly. The anchor is Page of Pentacles. And so as my teacher, Denise Elizabeth Byron, who you've had on as a guest, like to say, what do you see? What do you feel? You take that card in. So I'll ask that of the audience if they're watching this. And the second card is the Emperor. And then the third card is Ace of Wands.
Wow.
So a really powerful spread here. And I think if I were to summarize it into one succinct sentence or question, I might ask, what resources are at our disposal to root into our inner authority and create with passion, direction, and love?
Beautiful.
So that's what I would say about those 3 cards.
What a beautiful way to start out today. I love it. Love to dig in with anything that maybe you can share with our audience about sensitivities, creativity, spiritual or mystical experiences that you may have had as a child or as a young person.
Yes, absolutely. I think the first thing that I want to say to the audience, especially those who are new to their journey, I think a lot of us have wounds around our sensitivity, being too sensitive, too much, too passionate, to this, to that. And to that, I would say that you are not too sensitive. You are just sensitive. We are energy in a body. And so we are meant to feel. We're meant to have these feelings. And so I think my journey from a young age to adulthood was reclaiming that sensitivity. And that was quite the journey. As a kid, I grew up, I was thinking about this actually after our earlier conversation. I grew up going to, Mount Shasta as a kid. My aunt lives there. I spent weeks there in the summertime. So spirituality and psychic sensitivity, um, crystals, all of those things, that was very like in the periphery of my life always. And I always found it to be very whimsical and interesting. And then on my dad's side, my grandma was very clairvoyant. She's very clairvoyant, and it was always kept very under wraps. She was scared of it. She didn't want anybody to know. And inside the family, though, it was this kind of cool thing. It was like, oh, grandma will know, she'll know. And so I never saw spirit outside of myself to my memory. So I always thought that I wasn't maybe sensitive in that way, psychic sensitivity. That didn't come till later in my life. But I was always told that I was too sensitive. I felt things too deeply, or I took things too personally, or it was a lot of that kind of, I don't want to say gaslighting. I don't think that was the intention, but I stopped trusting my own sensitivities. And so getting older and being in this body of work, part of that was reclaiming and discerning, learning my discernment and discerning what was I really feeling there? What was I really picking up? I think a lot of people can identify with that, feeling a sensitivity, pushing it aside, and then there being evidence to support that they were right all along. So that's the long story to your answer.
Yes. How might you have experienced things differently other than just a sensitivity? Like, did you have any premonitions or things come to you in a dream? Or are there any kind of little experiences that stood out to you that made you maybe even circle back around later on in life and like, oh, now I understand what was happening there? Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I always had dreams of people who passed on right after they passed. And I didn't think anything of it until honestly you asked me that question when we were talking earlier. But I always had dreams. And if I didn't, I felt a little disturbed by that because I was like, well, are they okay? Usually they come and they let me know they're okay. And so I always had that. And another really interesting one, when I started Reiki, I learned this, but going to public spaces was always very difficult for me. Um, I would, get a pain somewhere, or I would, feel out of nowhere, like a pain in my shoulder at the grocery store as somebody walked by and I was like, oh my gosh, oh God, now my shoulder hurts, right? And I wouldn't think anything of it. I just kind of, it's just, it would go away after a little bit or whatever. And then I realized that I'm very sensitive. My energy is quite porous unless I'm being conscious of that. And so picking up other people's energy all day long, this work helped me to be more conscientious. And in that, I'm able to kind of stay in my own energy and hold the line, if that makes sense. And it helps me go out into the world with more confidence and more ease. So that's part of what I love to do in this work is bring the practicality of these tools for the highly sensitive. And I've always been highly creative. I love to make art in all disciplines. And so I think that being a highly sensitive person and creativity, they really go together. Um, they live, the intuition and creativity live in the same place in the body. So you're always working in that world. Um, and I think as a kid, being with art was how I showed it most, was creating new things all the time.
Love that. What types of things do you do to protect yourself? Like, safe space, your energetic field, both inside your work when you're working with somebody, but also outside in the world.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Em. There's a myriad ways to do it for those listening. And every discipline I've ever studied, whether it's Reiki or tarot or I've done so many sessions with you, Susan, for um, so many of your offerings, really. It starts with intention. So, intending to hold your energetic space. And if you say that out loud or you say it to yourself, but taking a moment to pause and set the intention is everything. And then there are physical things you can do. So when I go to the grocery store and I have such an interesting relationship, but I'll just keep using it as an example. I always wear a hat or an airport. I always wear a hat. And there's something about the somatic experience of putting the hat on that just keeps me in my own space, and it shuts out the world a little bit. And I think it's because I intended it for it to be that way. So you can try that. In Reiki, you always wash your hands before and after a session. So that is another way to uh, clear the energy, if you will, and hold your own. So those are ways to do it and go about it. I'm happy to talk about more if you want more, but we'll start there.
That's
I
great.
love that. I love the hat. I love
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to also just add in that when I decided that I was going to become a Reiki master, Reiki practitioner, one of the reasons I was drawn to the field was to understand what was my energy and what was somebody else's, because I'm also highly sensitive. So there, for anybody listening here, it is such a beautiful modality to understand what belongs to you and what belongs somewhere else, right? And all of these practices that we do use to ground and to keep our energy field clear. So it's an excellent modality in of itself, just for that. Even if you don't want to share it with the world as an offering, there's a lot of personal growth and empowerment that comes just from the personal practice of Reiki. So, what were there a pivot point or a catalyst, or how did you find out about Reiki? How did you get drawn into this? How did the impetus that created Santa Cruz Mountain Reiki?
Yeah. I think it was one of those things, you know how like life will just kind of trickle the information and it just kind of gets louder and louder the more you ignore it. And I wasn't ignoring it per se, but I had my own podcast for a long time called Spark Intention. And I had interviewed a couple Reiki masters. And so that was where I really had learned about it. I think I'd maybe heard of it once before. Very possible in Mount Shasta, honestly, for those who know it. But I was always intrigued by it. I think the idea of energy work it always made a lot of sense to me. And so I was always very intrigued by it. And when Kristen from Palo Alto Reiki started her Reiki master lessons, it was during COVID, and she invited her friends to come to her backyard and have Reiki sessions for free so that you need 20 hours of practice before you can you can take the Reiki master course. And so I went and I just had such a relaxing, nourishing experience. And when she started teaching, it was a immediate yes. I signed up. I was curious about it for similar reasons, Susan. I think I wanted to understand it, and I'm very curious by nature. And so I started there, and it clicked. Day one, it clicked for me. I had other offerings. I had tarot readings. I was doing kind of coaching at the time, and something felt like it was missing, and Reiki felt like that's what was missing for me. So
I love it. And from there, you created Santa Cruz Mountain Reiki and all of the other things that you intertwine and offer. Like, when somebody comes to you, how do you know if they don't ask for Reiki? How do you know what? Maybe sometimes people just come to you and say, like, I just want to feel better. How do you choose? Like, how do you bring in these different modalities to support people in your offerings and in your work?
yeah, that's a great question, Susan. I lean heavily on trusting other people's discernment. So when I meet people, I will meet you at the threshold, but you will guide yourself through that threshold. I will be here, I will hold the space, but I fully trust you, and I fully trust where you're at and your divine timing and your courage and your strength and all that you have lived through. That is not nothing. And I will be there at the threshold. I am here to hold space. My favorite principle of Reiki, it's like one of the first things you teach in Reiki 1 is that you heal yourself. I am not doing anything to you. And it is one of my core values. So that being said, when somebody walks in, the first thing we do is have a conversation. And one of the first things I say is, nothing I share should be a shock. Deep inside, you will know the truth. I am here to reflect to you. I am here to mirror to you. Already know to be true inside. And if it doesn't resonate, that's okay. Leave it. We're here to work on your discernment. We're here to work with your discernment. So when somebody comes in, they've always booked something, so it kind of helps already clarify. And if I feel like we need to move in a direction, I'll ask, are you okay with moving in this direction? How would you feel? So every client gets to guide where we get to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having that conversation and that back and forth inside the room, inside our sessions, makes everybody's experience extremely unique, but also very tailored to them. And I really struggled with that when I was making my offerings for that exact reason. You know, sometimes people come, they think they want a reading, but what they actually end up wanting and needing is time to rest or time to reflect, or so we make space for it. Nothing has to be rigid. We just have a container, and then we play within the container.
It sounds to me like these are highly intuitive healing sessions where you just kind of pull in whatever you're feeling is really needed for that particular individual at that particular time. And it could be sound healing, it could be Reiki, crystal healing, it could be chakra healing, it could be a number of things. Is that how you work?
It is very accurate to how I work. People will book a Reiki session, and I always ask if they're open to insights and reflections afterwards. So sometimes I will get a mediumship kind of intuitive message, or sometimes I will get messages as I'm working in the field, because you do. At least I do. And so there's always that opportunity. And then I also bring in the cards. So I kind of blend everything together. Yeah. And sometimes if we're having a conversation, I have my crystal bowls here, and I'll use it at the beginning. Yeah.
That's great. It allows you to kind of just move with spirit. I feel like. Yeah.
Very much so. And there is still structure. There's still the person, we still are going to do the tarot reading if you booked a tarot reading, or we're still going to do Reiki if you booked Reiki. And if there's any additives, I do create and allow the space for that.
What about astrology? So
Mm-hmm.
you're also an astrologer,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you also may have got some pretty deep and powerful insights about yourself along your journey
Yeah.
through astrology. I'd love to talk about that, and I'd love to touch on astrology in general, but how you were drawn to that and how it helped you make some sense out of maybe some experiences that you were having in your life.
Yeah. The story of me and astrology is so interesting because I think, like many of us, I used to read magazines as a kid, and I'd always go to the back, and read my horoscope, and I'm a Scorpio. And so, as a kid, I identified as a princess. Pinks, purples, stars, glitter, like you name it. I had it. I wanted it. Um, I love to play dress up. And every time I'd turn to Scorpio, and it's just this like goth, sad, all black, like, girl, get this. This is resonating with me. And so that was my first impression of astrology as a kid. And as I got older, I got more fascinated by it. And I learned that you're actually supposed to, in those horoscopes, you're actually supposed to read your rising sign, not your sun sign. So there's that. So I should have been reading the Cancerian one, but that's a whole other thing. So I got really curious about it, and it was so intimidating. All of this felt really intimidating to me. Reiki, um, psychic work, everything felt really intimidating. I just happened to get kind of, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I got connected with Denise Elizabeth Byron at my bachelorette party.
Wow, I love it.
And she just spoke to me. Like, her energy spoke to me, her work, the way that she conveys her work really spoke to me. And so she gave me a reading, and I think I really zoned in on her. I was like, you, I need to contact you. And I was in a very tumultuous time in my life. I didn't really have direction. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I was meant for more, but I didn't know what that more was. My dad had passed away. I was getting married, just a lot of change. And so I started working with her. And in that first session, one-on-one, she went to the depths with me. And I love that. I like intensity. I don't mind it. In fact, give it to me, shoot it to me straight. I want to know. And so we went straight to Pluto. And she does what's called forensic astrology, where you go back in time. I don't know if it's really called forensic, but she calls it forensic astrology. I'm sure that's what it really is called. You go back in time to a very significant point in your life. And that was when my dad passed. And Pluto was sitting directly on top of my descendant, which, for those who don't know astrology, represents the father. So the planet of change, transformation, death, ultimately for our healing, but death is sitting directly on top of my descendant, representing my father. And so I was like, well, it could be a coincidence, but it would be a pretty interesting coincidence.
Yeah.
And then we went into my Chiron, which is represented as the our greatest wound, but also our greatest potential. And mine is in Leo. So there's a lot of fears around being seen. There are fears that we came into this lifetime with to heal, to move beyond. And so mine is in Leo, and in my house, my second house of worth. And so she's explaining to me how that could show up. And I just felt so seen. She gave me language for things I didn't know how to express about the inner workings of how I felt. And from there, I was a sponge. I was like, tell me everything. Like, oh, I need to learn everything about astrology, everything there is to know. And great news is that I'll never be done. Astrology is so layered. There's so much to learn. I will never be done learning astrology, and that excites me to no end. So that's how I began with astrology.
It's so validating too, right? Like, it's like, oh, you just can't make this up. It's like right there in front of your face.
And
Like,
it's relieving to know that it's not all chaos, you know. There is a place to point to prepare, or to, again, have a container to work within. I think that that's so relieving to me as somebody who struggles with, anxiety. I had struggled with anxiety my whole life. So it's helpful in managing my anxiety to say, hey, here's the energy of the time, you know?
Like a invisible support system. Yeah, yeah. And we can refer to it and have a sense of what's coming, or prepare for that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not
Like, we don't know how it'll shake out, exactly, but we'll know what energy we're working with.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny when you shared the story about the horoscope in the paper, it transported me back to a time when, so my grandmother was a Scorpio, and she always got this paper that had the horoscope in it and a puzzle, the crossword puzzles. And she'd always do that crossword puzzle, and she'd read the horoscope, and I would always sneak her little paper to read the horoscope every time she got it weekly. And yeah, it was such a joy. It's funny how we're drawn to these things, drawn to the stars, drawn to our horoscopes, that energy from a young age, some of us. I think
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
this inherent knowing. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And I think it's so interesting now. I think part of the cosmic joke of it all now is like, look at me. I am a little bit of a goth girl who, like, it never ceases to amaze me, how accurate these things just like kind of move into place. And I think as kids, we're open and we're curious. And that's all that this work requires of you, is to stay open and stay curious and playful. Play has been coming up so much lately, and I'm really excited about that development and that energy, um, for the collective. I think there's something exciting that's blooming right now.
mm. Ooh, can you expand on that? I think it's really important right now, that we hold things a little lightly in some places, because there's a lot of intensity going on. But yeah, can you expand on the playfulness, because it is something that keeps coming up lately.
Yes, absolutely. What I have been feeling and sensing, and we saw this, and I think we talked about this, um, artists and artistry, singing, dancing, any form of self-expression requires play. It requires play. And that playfulness, that levity, that softer energy, hope, all of those things are needed right now. And I think the terminology I'm getting from these energies is, don't forget that we exist too. And so I think that's where the play is really coming forward, is saying, through play, we can open the door, we can feed our hope, we can feed our inner artist. We can feed and fuel our creative mind. And that's where creative solutions come from. That's where connection comes from. That's where intimacy comes from. To be vulnerable in ways that we might not want to be vulnerable otherwise, but because it's fun, it makes it easier. And then those things, those pieces of us are required to stay connected in this world. So it's interesting. It's I think because it's coming forward so strongly, it is reflecting its shadow is very, very present right now. The intensity, and intensity is not a bad thing. It's just, in order to navigate it, what are the tools we need? We need creativity, we need play, we need softness too.
So for the person who's maybe just starting out or feels a sense that there's something that they want to do, that's life is getting pretty tough, right? And in your experience, where would somebody start? What are the little things that people can do that might lighten the mood or dip into their creativity, to just start somewhere, to open up somewhere, to start connecting?
That's such a good question. My answer might not be for everybody, so I just will say that, really put that out there. Dance with your shadows. They're not here to tear us out and tear us down. They are here to transform us. So if you're in a really intense time, I would say on a practical level, know your resources. Who do you go to talk things through? Resources aren't just money, it's people, it's your community, it's everything like that. So know your tools. But when I'm in a really intense time of my life, I pause and I get really curious and I sit back and I give myself the time to say, okay, I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now. Grief is really loud right now. First of all, identifying the emotion that I'm feeling in my body, where it's coming from in my body, and then having a conversation with it. And then from there, sometimes I like to make art, sometimes I like to channel it through in a visual experience. Sometimes I like to work out. Sometimes I like to write, write the feelings out. So, what are your creative outlets that you like to work with? That is really key, is knowing your favorite creative outlets. And sometimes that takes time, especially if I'm working through the artist way right now. Again, I did it in 2020, which was kind of a funny time to do it because I couldn't take myself on artist dates or do like half of the things that she wanted me to do. So I'm doing it again with my friend Katie. And she talks about the shadow artist, the one who, you've suppressed this artist down for so long. So it might be a hard question to even ask a person, what are your creative outlets? What do you like to do? How do you like to play? Mm-hmm. So if you don't have answers to those questions, I would say start there.
Love it. What kind of people do you see in your practice? What kind of people are drawn to you? Is there a theme, or is it all over the map? And maybe it's changed. Maybe it's evolved.
I often get highly creative people in my practice. So, and anywhere from musicians to actors to performers of all kinds. I also tend to attract like entrepreneurial spirited people. In Reiki specifically, interestingly, a lot of massage therapists and a lot of people who work with animals, nurses, people who work like death doula, nurse, people who work with people, teachers. So they're kind of like healers in their own right already. And I think it's really interesting how Reiki calls to the people and brings those people to the practitioner and the teacher. So yeah, it's interesting with my intuitive work and my creative work. definitely a lot more rightus, and then the Reiki specifically. Yeah.
Have you seen it change or evolve at all? Like, from my perspective, I really see these modalities coming more to the forefront. Like people are looking for other modalities for healing besides just maybe Western medicine ideas, right? But I feel like people are opening up, they're expanding. Things that used to be more considered woo-woo are becoming more mainstream, which I'm loving seeing this. So I'm just curious if you've seen it evolve.
Yes. I have seen it evolve a lot. I think I started this work, I want to say it was 2017, 2018. Interesting because that's Uranus has been in Taurus for, the last since 2017, 18, I think, thereabouts. And now it's moving into Gemini. And so these last 7 years, it's been in Taurus opposite basically all of my planets. I have like a Scorpio stellium, so it's Taurus, Scorpio, they're opposite signs. So Uranus has been dancing here, shining a light on all of my stuff, all of my Scorpio stuff. So there's been a lot of transformation, all of that to say. And I have seen that transformation not just in others, but in myself. I used to feel like I needed to over explain or justify this work that I do a lot. Uh, and I was so afraid of people's judgment of this work. That persecution wound was so strong within me. And now when I share what I do and who I am, I find that I'm met with more curiosity than skepticism. It could also be where I live. I think it plays a part. But in the most uncommon places, I'll find people say, "Oh yeah, Reiki," or "Oh yeah, like tell me more." Like they're more open to it, and I think that that is just such a beautiful thing. I'm so happy and relieved and excited about that. I think before I would be met with a lot more, not pushback, but the door would be very closed. If that makes sense.
I think there's been so much research now done in this field, this energy field around Reiki. They now teach it in hospitals to nurses, and it's more recognized, and we have to be less apologetic for what we do. I think it goes maybe potentially back to the old burning at the stake. Right, and what are people going to think, and how am I going to be perceived? And I think that with the research and with the amount of practitioners and just socially, it's just a way of life. I remember decades ago, so my partner and I taught basic life support, basic patient care. My partner had been in that field, in the medical field, for decades, and he said something once, that when you go to touch a patient, sometimes just placing your hand on the back of their shoulder will allow somebody to just take a breath and relax, to just let go. Like he said, it's like your mom, when you were sick, she would come and just rub your back or touch your shoulder, and you had this sense of it's going to be okay. And so when I first started practicing Reiki, that's exactly what I had, that image in my mind, that it's a transference, but an acceptance, and it's okay. It's just going to be okay. That's kind of how it started out for me, and understanding the exchange that kind of happens during the process. A simple way to describe it, but
Yeah,
but nevertheless, very simple.
beautiful.
That's so, so beautiful. And I'm so grateful that you shared that with me. I think, and with all of us, I think that the healing touch therapy, it is so simple that I think sometimes we forget that we need human connection, and we need to just, that single touch gives our body the signal to move into our parasympathetic nervous system, and the body will naturally begin its rest and digest process. And I love the mysticism of it all. I love the mystery and the magic of it all. And when I'm explaining or teaching Reiki, it's actually not very mysterious. It's pretty practical. You're allowing somebody to rest, and from
Mhm.
there, the body can heal itself. And that touch is so symbolic, I think, of what we need in this world and like what healing really is, and that love and that care, and how many of us just feel like we have to hold it all together, but nobody holds us, you know?
Mhm.
And that simple touch might be the first time anybody has ever touched that person's back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
Has ever said, I've got your back.
Yeah.
So, mm, anyway,
Yeah.
could go on a tangent there, but Emma, I'm just so grateful you shared that.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
And I appreciate, thank you so much for doing the work that you do, because it's needed and it's appreciated, and sometimes I think, in years past it's been undervalued, but I'm so grateful that in today's world that people are starting to wake up and recognize the importance of the healing modalities that are out there.
Mm.
Me too.
Do you have, without breaching any client confidentiality, our audience loves stories and examples of how lives have been affected through these modalities. So, curious if you have any examples or a story or two to share about maybe something that you've witnessed. Maybe it's a small shift that made a big difference in someone's life, or maybe it's a major life change, right? They moved into to I don't know, stepped into or opened up to something really beautiful that shifted them.
Oh, that's a beautiful question, Susan. All of your questions, I just love the questions that you've asked all your guests. I've gone through the backlog now and I've listened to all of your conversations. And I'm like, oh, these questions. Yes, I love I really do. I love getting to the roots. I'll share two stories. One was when I was in a mediumship training, and I didn't know I could do mediumship, but I was also a little scared of it. And so naturally, my first thought was, let's dive in. Let's learn. uh, but if I'm afraid of something, I must learn about it. So I was in a mediumship, and my teacher brings on a person. I don't know them. I've never met them. And they're holding a picture. There's somebody they want to connect with. And I'm seeing this red cardinal. I'm seeing this room. And I'm describing the room, and I'm describing this like photo, and I come out of it and I have no idea if I'm right. I don't know anything. I doubt myself a lot. So anyway, but this work is about trust,
Mm-hmm.
pure and simple. So I come out and she goes, I just put this photo up, and it's the photo of the room I described.
Wow.
And it was her grandfather, and his name was like Rudy, I think, or something like that. And she's like, oh, XYZ, this is the photo. And the photo is exactly as the room I described it. And she goes, every time I see cardinals, I think of him. And so there's this whole connection, right? So we end the session. That day, my my teacher calls me and she goes, I had to tell you this. Her neighbor came over named Rudy with a basket of flowers, and the card inside was a red cardinal.
Oh,
So she tells her client, who I didn't know, and she tells her this story. And I think that the mediumship ones are so special because grief never goes away. And so when you can share that, a total stranger can say, I saw this, I felt this, this is real, this was real. Your love for this person and their love for you is real. That can never be taken from you. And the amount of comfort that brings
mm-hmm.
is so profound. And then you get these outside validating sources. And when they stack on top of one another,
Yeah.
it just gave her so much support. And I think that as we go through life, and I always say this, but my support system has moved from this earthly realm very much to behind the veil. um, so when they come forward like that and remind us that they're still with us and they're still here, it really is life changing because it makes you see the world so differently, that we aren't alone, that this is real, that they're right there. They're just not in a physical form anymore. Their energy has transferred somewhere else. And so that was one story. And that's when I wasn't afraid of mediumship anymore, because I saw how supportive it can be. And the second one was this redwood tree right here, right outside my building, fell in a storm. It got snapped in half by a tornado of sorts.
Wow.
And the tree is here. We have a fence here, and it fell perfectly parallel to the house our next door neighbor's house. So it skipped the fence and fell perfectly, but way over here. So when the tree guys came, they're looking over the fence and they're scratching their head and they're like, I don't. And he looks at me and he's like, trees don't fall like this. And I said, that's what he didn't know. At that night, I was laying in bed and I heard in my mind's ear, I didn't actually hear a voice, but I heard, cast a net of Reiki over everybody's homes. So I did, casted the net, and the tree did no damage to any properties, except for my neighbor's generator, brand new generator. But 100 feet of redwood snapped in half and fell perfectly 2-3 feet from their entire house, the whole length of their house. So energy work.
Yeah.
I was very humbled by that experience. A huge part of my journey has been not trusting, wanting to trust, not feeling like I could trust, being extremely skeptical. And I think over the years, I've been very humbled by a lot of experiences like that. And I really sit in the camp of the older I get, the more I learn, the more I know nothing. So I'm open. I'm very open. But there is something, even if I can't explain it or quantify it yet.
Yeah, the experiences, I think you hit the nail on the head. At some point you're just like, okay. In my youth, I thought I knew a lot. The older I've gotten, the more I realize the less I know. And the less I don't know. But also in that has been the freedom of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that these things have been happening all along, right? And I resisted them for so long, at the sake of appearing normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Denied myself a full and rich life in some ways because of it. But I am perfectly happy now, not fully understanding how it works, but knowing that it does and being okay with that. But sometimes it is literally shocking. Like, how?
Every day.
That is so crazy. How did I know that? That is so weird. Like, how could that be? I was just thinking that.
It happens to people all the time, like you were saying, Em. It happens to people all the time, and they think, oh, like, I'm not intuitive, I'm not psychic, I'm not, this, I'm not that. How many times have you thought of somebody and then they call? How many times have you, in Reiki, one of the things Kristen taught us was, how many times have you gotten hurt and then you instinctively hold your hand over the wound. That is Reiki. That is you wanting to regulate and move the energy. We do it all day. How many times have you called your partner and been like, I'm really craving Chinese food for dinner, and they're like, I was thinking the same thing. It's like we do these things all the time, and we don't really pay attention to them until we do.
And this, when you start paying attention, then they start happening more. Very interesting how that happens. Speaking of like the signs and synchronicities, did you have some things around some synchronicities around a recent writing project?
Yes. Didn't I tell you about one? I can't even remember. See, this is the thing. To your point, Susan, it happens so frequently that I forget. I have to write everything down. I have to write it all down because I have to go back into my notebooks and read all these miraculous things that happen all the time. Yes, this project that I've been working on since 2013. I have been writing this book since 2013. I have written this book 6 or 7 times in revision, time and time again. Anyway, it's really truly coming to a close pretty soon, and I'm very excited about it. And if I don't open that document every day, a name of a character, and they're weird names too. They're not, Jan, Joe, they're interesting names will come up. In the most random places. I mean, I'm talking a license plate. I'm talking, just random things. We were talking about this before we went on air. This showed up on my doorstep. I did not order this.
Wow.
This showed up on my doorstep a day after the band who I was listening to on the train when I got the idea for this book viewed my Instagram story. I don't know this band. They don't know me. I don't know how they viewed my Instagram story, but the actual band viewed my story.
Wow.
And then this showed up
Wow.
on my doorstep a day later. And I pulled the manuscript out that week after not touching it for like 6-7 months. Things like that where you're just like, I can't make this up. I can't make this up, and it's too synchronistic. Yes, that happens all the time. All the time. A book I'm reading, especially when I procrastinate, it's like the universe is laughing at me because I'll procrastinate writing, and then I'll be like, I could read a book right now, and I'll open the book, and wouldn't you know, the same character names are popping up in that book. And at this point, you have to laugh. You just have to laugh. It's silly. It's so funny. I love it. But yeah,
So
that
what
happened.
is your writing project, Jenna?
My writing project is about a girl who, speaking of Scorpios, this is going to get dark. Content warning. It's about a girl who witnessed her parents' murder, and then 15 years later, the same people who were behind the murder come for her. I'll leave it there. Yeah. It's a fantastical, there's a magic system, there's a different world, it's kind of fantasy, a little dystopian. Yeah.
Love it. And you're creative in many ways. I love your creativity, your art, your writing, and I think you have a specific offering for creatives, and I want to ask you about that because it's unique and it's beautiful, and I'd love it if you would share it with our listeners.
Thank you, Susan. I'm really excited about this offering. This offering I have had in my drafts for a long time, and it's for the creative going through their creative vision or their project and using all of the tools that I have at my disposal to help them bring this project through to fruition. So if you are just starting the project, if you're in the middle of it, if you're feeling stuck, if you have writer's block, if you want to sit with your characters. We can pull tarot cards on them. We can pull tarot cards on a scene. But we're bringing your inner creative, feeding your inner creative so that you can bring your project to life. So that is in essence what it's about. It's called a creative attunement. And so it's really helping the artist stay in alignment with their creativity so that they can bring their project to fruition.
So you bring in some intuitive things through the tarot cards, some support.
Yep. Intuitive things for the artists themselves and the creative project. So we can pull charts for your characters. If you're a writer, we'll look at the chart. It also works really well if you're feeling like in the dreaming phase of the project, or you're still trying to figure out the identity of it or how you want to work through it. It's helping clarify what you're working on. So it's fueling the artist, but it's also fueling the art.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's also moving energy, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of movement happening. I love it.
Because these creative ideas, these projects, they do have an energy and a life of their own.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like babies. And I got that feedback so often. And I still do, but I get that feedback a lot of, oh my gosh, Jenna, I get so many ideas when I'm with you. I get the best idea. I get this, I get that. And I was like, well, I'm not really sure I'm doing anything. And then I realized, oh, it's the way I get curious. So it's the way I'm asking questions. It's the way that I'm holding the space. It's the way that we let the energy move and flow that gives the space for the creative vision to come to life. So people walk away inspired. And that is the most exciting thing to me, because I really just want to nourish artists, and I really want to see more art in this world. And I want to see those art babies being born. I want to see them come to life.
Interesting, when you were talking, I had this little download in this vision of you being almost like a project doula, like
Oh, I love that.
like nurturing the birth and that energetic, feeling of supporting and really just allowing a smoother transition into existence. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, that feels so good in my body. I just want to I want to feel that in my body. Thank you.
Jenna, what wisdom can you share with anybody who's just becoming curious or just kind of feeling this shift or calling towards, maybe their intuition's being turned on, or the calling towards spirituality or mysticism or creativity? What can you share with our audience?
Welcome. Don't panic. Take a deep breath. There are people who understand what you're going through. They're here on this podcast. You're building that community. And I remember Denise's interview is so fresh in my mind, but she said this too, I think. I think it was Denise. This community that you're creating and that is here, you're offering people the space to explore this in a safe enough container. And I'm so grateful to you both for that. And I would say to those listening, stay here, learn, listen. If you have questions, ask. Always ask questions. Never stop asking questions. I think I'll only speak for myself, but I was such a curious kid, and I feel like I got kind of shut down with asking questions. It was annoying. We don't have time for that. You're too slow to whatever. Bring that back. Bring it back. And there are so many resources, but the teachers that you're bringing on and who you both are as teachers and as people who've been in this work, you have so much wisdom to give and to share. So for those listening, keep listening, keep soaking it in. the way that I learn is through kind of osmosis, and the way that Denise teaches is very similar in that way. And you would be surprised how much you pick up just by listening. You don't have to take notes. You don't have to, you don't have to study it unless you want to. You can just receive. Very similar to Reiki. All you have to do is receive. That's all you have to do. People know what you're going through, and one day at a time. Just one day at a time.
Jenna, thank you for stepping into this space with us. It has been a joy. I love conversations with you, and yeah, thank you so much. How can our listeners find you?
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be asked. So thank you both, Em and Susan, for asking me to be here. You can find me primarily at Santa Cruz. It's a mouthful. SantaCruzMountainReiki.com. You can find me there. I don't spend too much time on social media anymore. It was a choice that I made for my own inner artist. But my website is the best way to get a hold of me at this point. And so you only have to remember that one long URL.
Yeah, thank you. And for our listeners, if you feel nourished or inspired by the Veil Between Lives, please subscribe, like, share, comment, or leave a review. It helps these conversations reach the souls meant to find them.
Thank you, everybody.